Please forgive me for this before I even start. I try to do something fun at the beginning of each sermon, and this is my sad attempt for today. Okay? Bob, you forgive me for this beforehand? Yeah, Bob says it's okay. You won't, will you? Lyle just sort of looks at me with that ugly look going, here you go again. It's true. The guy walks into an ultra busy doctor's office. Ultra busy. Receptionist sees him and points at him and says, "What you got?" And he goes, "Shingles." She says, "Take a seat, fill this out." So he fills out the thing with his name and address and, history. And in comes the assistant, the nursing assistant. And she calls out his name, pulls him back, and she says, "Well, what do you got?" He goes, "Shingles." And so she takes his height and his weight and takes him in, gets his blood pressure, and sits him in a chair. 20 minutes later, here comes the RN. She picks up his chart and goes, "What you got?" He goes, "Shingles." So she takes some blood from him and throws a gown at him and goes, "Put this on." So she leaves, and about 45 minutes later, in comes the doctor. The doctor picks it up and looks at him, has him sit on the table, pokes him, listens to him through the stethoscope, and he goes, "What have you got?" And he goes, "Shingles." He goes, "You don't have shingles." He says, "Yes, I do. They're in a truck out back. I'm here to put on a new roof." They were thinking it was going to be like you know what I'm saying? But they were, okay. That was awful, wasn't it? I apologize. How often do we find ourselves not being understood? And if you think it's bad for us, it was worse for Jesus. Because nobody knew who he was and what he could do. Not even his followers. Here is a prime example of Jesus coming onto the scene. And everyone being a day late, a dollar short, and a step behind. Here he comes, and Lazarus has died. His buddy. And he looks around and he sees everybody in mourning. And not only were they in mourning, they were probably a little bit miffed with him. Because he knew Lazarus was sick. And if he could have made it there earlier, everything would have been fine. Did you know the Battle of the Bulge had an extra problem when they were fighting this last advance by the German army? The soldiers from above were soldiers that were dropped behind enemy territory of the Germans. And they didn't have a whole lot of weapons or demolition experience. Their whole job was to do one thing. And that was to misdirect the Allied army. And what they would do is they would exchange and turn signs or take down anything that would help them get to the place that they needed to be. And it almost cost the Allies that battle because of confusion. And what I want to deal with today is the confusion about who Jesus is. We have this idea that Jesus was somebody who came a long time ago and led a life that was to be an example, and then he died for our sin, and one day we hope to see him. That's not my Jesus. My Jesus promises to be here right now. You know, in the Old Testament, they worshiped in a temple. And we have carried that on and decided, well, we'll worship in buildings. And when I was growing up, I was told, this is God's house when we meet. And the stained glass windows tell you, God lives here. Then I found out that's terrible, terrible, terrible theology. Where does God live?
In our heart.
He lives in our hearts. He is all over. He is not regulated to one building. That's not where he's at. He is here. Wherever we go, whatever we do, he is there if we will tap into it. What we need to understand, first and foremost, is life makes sense if we trust God. He will take care of us. I am tired of going to funerals of believers and everyone is despondent. Please, when you attend my funeral, have a nice time, because I'm going to be at that moment. Because when my eyes close on this earth, they will open up in heaven. And I will see Jesus face to face. I'll put in a good word for you. Promise. This is the whole thing, is we have to step out in faith and understand that God is in control. This weeping and gnashing of teeth, it's not for me. I don't serve a God whose arms are too short. I serve a God who is available right here, right now, for each and every one of us. With him, life works. Second, God shows up and is available. Okay? He is not this distant deity that sort of looks and, Ray, when you do the right thing, he goes, nice job, buddy. But he works with us, and in us, and through us. I think that's exciting. That when you're on your milk truck, he's helping you drive. On good days, when you let him. On bad days, you pretty much took it on your own. Correct? Oh, I almost missed that milk. No, he's real careful. But this is our problem. Do we really expect God to move? He wants you to. It says in the book of James, when you believe, believe. Don't waver in your faith. He calls that unbalanced. Why would we be unbalanced? Have you been let down by God ever? Well, yeah, for a while. Did you recognize later that he was there all the time? That his hand was in there? Let's be honest. Some of the struggles that you have faced in your life, did not God show up? And through that struggle, it was absolutely a blessing. That in your hardest moment, you recognize that is the point where you grew the most. That's what Jesus does. And last but not least, we need to recognize that God not only can, but he will. I love this. Jesus says to Oh, Lazarus isn't dead, he's only sleeping. My picture in my mind was that Lazarus, at that moment, woke up in the tomb before the stone was rolled away, because Jesus never lies. So he goes, Lazarus was only sleeping. And all of a sudden his eyes open and he's wrapped like this mummy, as tight as can be. And my thought process in his head, he's going, oh boy, what am I going to do now? Because it's pitch black. Then the stone gets rolled away, and Lazarus is going, this is too freaky. And then Jesus goes, Lazarus, come out. And he's going, how am I to do that? Then all of a sudden, here comes Lazarus. And everybody's going, oh my goodness. And they're staring at Lazarus. And finally Jesus has to say, duh, why doesn't somebody unwrap him? How many people in our world are wrapped up like Lazarus was? That needs people just to help him. Just to see that he has a place for them. Just to help them understand you're not rejected. There's nothing you have to earn. I love you before you even start. I was 21 years old. And I was a regular churchgoer. Every Christmas, every Easter, I was there. Regular. And God was this person that was so far away. Not anybody real people deal with. And I didn't like me. I don't know if you've ever experienced that death inside. But then one day somebody said, you know what? There is a God who's available for you right now, and all you have to do is ask. And the strangest thing happened. I recognized that he loved me. And if he loved me, I could love me too. Do you know what I'm saying? Why would I argue with him? And I didn't have to clean up. I didn't have to straighten up. It was sort of like he was saying to me, we'll do this together. This person who was dead inside, all of a sudden became alive. I'm thinking about the story of this guy who was interviewing 3 people who were businessmen. He was sort of a job coach and a life coach. And he looked at them and he said to the 3 guys, okay, it's your funeral. What do you want people to say over your body? First guy thought to himself, and he said, what I would like them to say is, I was a great leader and a wonderful philanthropist, and I made a difference in my world. Second guy got up, a little more individual and personal. He says, I want them to say, I was a wonderful father and boss. And they went to the third guy. And he says, well, what would you want them to say over your body? And he thought for a while, and he goes, I know exactly what I want him to say. Look, he's moving. I don't want to be dead. I know exactly what that guy is thinking. I don't want to walk around a shadow of a person just putting up with life. I want to be alive while I'm alive. And that's what God promises each and every one of us. I will give you life and life abundant if you're open to it. Princeton Theological Seminary, I'll close with this, has a professor there. It was years ago. His name was Wilson. They used to call him Old Professor Wilson. And he was one of the favorites in the theology department. And Professor Wilson would teach, and he loved teaching. And one of the habits he would get into is he would visit each graduating pastor once. He'd just show up. A recent graduate was getting ready to take the pulpit in his church, and he saw Professor Wilson. And he's pretty excited. And he got up and preached and was done and was at the door and greeted everybody, and Professor Wilson stayed behind. And these was his words for his graduate. He said, "I make it a habit of seeing every one of my students once and only once." And he says, and it's not for you, it's for me. And here's the reason. I want to see if you are a big or a little Godder. You see, a lot of people have a little God, and they just sort of wave at him as they come and go. He doesn't really do anything in their lives, and there's really no reason to put their faith in that God, so they allow him to be nice and small. Yet there are others who are big Godders. And he gives them dreams. And they believe those dreams, and they hear his call. And they realize that there is nothing that they cannot accomplish as long as they have their hand in this big God's hand. And he looked at this young pastor and he says, "I am so happy to see that you are a big God. And I want you to know that that will serve you well. And God will do miracles and great things in your life because your hand is in his." That's my dream, is that we're all big Godders. That not only do we come collectively and share with one another, but as we go our own way, we know that our hands are in the hands of a great big God. And that he is going to use us, that he is going to shine through us, and that we are part of miracles. I expect God to change our water into wine. I expect God to open up blind eyes so that they can see. I expect the lame to walk, the deaf to hear, and those who are dead to come to life. Because we have our hands in the hand of a big God. And his desire is to do great things through each and every one of us. Could you stand with me, please? Lord Jesus, we come before you and we thank you for the way that you loved us us and set us apart for your kingdom. We thank you for the promise that you would never leave us or forsake us, even to the end of the age. But that your promise is to fill our hearts, to be a part of everything we are, and to help us to love those around us. That Jesus, we may be lonely, but we are never alone. Let's sing this song.